God, what a monster. All right, Wes with Dirt Concepts here. Today we're going to break in my ProTek Samurai Ryan Maifield 21 Nitro engine in my Mugen Seiki MBX8R Nitro Buggy. This motor actually I purchased through A Main Hobbies, and it already has the Adam Drake EBIS procedure completed on the engine. So when you get the engine, the first thing you do is just go ahead and build the kit, the buggy, install the engine as you normally would. Then once you're ready to break it in, make sure that your receiver pack as well as your transmitter pack is completely charged. You also want to make sure that you definitely top off the charge on your starter box battery. For any starter box, I do recommend a 4S LiPo pack if your starter box is compatible, or either get a starter box that is compatible, such as this ProTek RC Sure Start starter box. This is just because with the new motor, they're always a little tight, so it ensures that you're going to get a solid start with the engine the first rip. So first thing I do is I get my heat gun, or you can use one of the head heaters that you can buy. ProTek RC actually sells a head heater that works very well for at the track. Since I'm at home today in my garage, I'm going to go ahead and use just a regular heat gun. And the first thing I'll do is go ahead and heat up the engine, as so, until I get it up to about 200 degrees. And when I'm heating the engine, I want to make sure I'm heating it not just on the top of the head, but all the way around the engine. So the crankcase also is heated up to 200 degrees. You want to make sure that you have a temperature gun, and go ahead and check that and make sure you're at 200 degrees. One of the other things you want to make sure you have is a tuning screwdriver, and you'll also want to have a glow igniter. Make sure your glow igniter is charged up all the way, so you don't have any issues with starting the engine up during the break-in process. The last thing that I like to have here is just a little container for that first tank where I'm idling it and it's running a little rich, just something to catch all of the oil residue coming out of the exhaust pipe. So the first thing I'll do, like I said before, is I'll heat up the engine. Once it's up to temperature, I'll go ahead and fire up the buggy. And before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the idle. The idle gap should already be set, but I found during the break-in process, I always like to raise the idle 2 or 3 hours, just to ensure that it idles well. The next thing I'll do sometimes is maybe back off on the high needle, maybe 1 or 2 hours. Not much, just enough to where it's running a little bit on the rich side for that first tank. Then once I get it fired up, what I like to do is either use socks, like kids socks. I have kids, so I can use kids socks, or gloves, the kids gloves. And I'll go ahead and wrap the head with probably like 2 of these gloves. And that way it just ensures that the engine's able to hold heat. Today it's in the 50s, so in that case I want to make sure that it doesn't drop below 180 degrees. That's actually really important in the break-in process, that you're not dropping below 180 degrees. So I'll go ahead and idle that first tank, and this is just how I do it. I'm not the professional here, but this is just how what my process looks like. So I'll go ahead and idle that first tank. Once it's complete, I'll remove the head heater. And I don't let the engine run out of fuel ever. So when it starts to get really, really low, and you can kind of watch this fuel line, if you start seeing any bubbles in there, first thing you need to do is turn off your starter box and just stop the engine. And then take your flywheel and adjust it so it's at bottom dead center. How you tell is by rocking it back and forth, and you can feel when it starts to get some pinch on each side, and you want to just stop at the middle point there. All right. Let it cool down completely. That's called heat cycling the engine. All right, so you can tell by just feeling on the engine, and when it doesn't feel warm anymore, you're done with that heat cycle. So you repeat the process again. I'll go ahead and heat it up. In this case, I'll usually add about 1 more hour on the high needle, and I may go down 1 hour on my idle as well. And from there, I'll actually put on some street tires. So in this case, I just had a buddy let me borrow some worn out tires, so I'll put that on the buggy, and I'll run it on the street in front of my house. I'll usually just do figure eights. This also helps because it breaks in the drivetrain. This is a new buggy, so it helps kind of break in that drivetrain as well, doing the figure eights. So I'll do the figure eights, and the thing is, when I'm doing my figure eights, I'm always very, very slowly getting on that throttle. All right, and I'm not really going past a quarter throttle. All right, for that the second tank. once the tank is complete, and bring it in occasionally, check the temperature, make sure it's above 180 degrees. If it's not, make sure you have your heat gun plugged in and ready with your starter box, and heat up that motor to, you know, over 200 degrees again, and then recover it again with socks or gloves or whatever you want to use. So once that tank is complete though, like I said, you go through the whole process again, find bottom dead center, turn everything off, make sure you shut off the engine before it runs out of fuel, all right? And then repeat the process. And you're gonna do probably 2 or maybe 3 more tanks after that. And each time you're gonna step up a little bit more on the throttle. So on that 3rd tank, I'm gonna go to about half throttle, all right? On the 4th tank, I'll do 3/4 throttle. And then the final tank is really when I can start opening it up. Now, I'm not just gonna go grab the throttle right away. I'll probably like ease into full throttle and then let off smoothly every time. Doing the figure 8s in front of the house. With every tank, I may add a half hour or an hour lean out the top end, as well as I may turn down the idle a little bit until it gets to a point where I feel like it's happy at. So once the motor starts to get kind of heat cycled and ran in, you can go to a lower idle setting and it'll be a little happier. So anyway, what I'm going to do is run a few more tanks to this thing, and then once I'm complete, I'll go ahead and show you what this thing can do on the street fully broken in. This motor is an absolute beast. All right, we're on our final, I've actually already finished the break-in tanks, so I put 5 through it. This is the 6th tank, and I just want to use this to show you guys, you know, how strong this ProTek Samurai Ryan Mayfield 21 engine is. So let's go ahead and get started. Get a little gas. Woo, man, this thing is a monster. Absolute beast. It's not even turned up yet. It's still running rich. Just imagine what this thing's going to be like, you know, after it gets some more fuel through it, about a gallon or 3/4 of a gallon or so through it. Woo. Clutch is a little soft for the street. Make sure we're pointing in the right direction here. All right. Let's go. It is still running rich. I don't want to leave it full throttle too long. Still a new motor. We can go the high RPM just a little bit. Whew. Just a monster. Jeez. Can't wait to get this thing on the track. Alright, that wraps up for this one. I'll see you on the next one.